I hope through this podcast that this causes you to think about who you are, what lights you up, what's exciting, because that truly, regardless of how great you are at business, that is the reason why people are coming to you. They could care less about the actual commodity or the service that you're providing in most cases.
We are here because we want to grow our personal brands online and 10x what we're currently doing today. And that 10x is a big number that seems impossible, but that is why we have on Jesse Flocken today to talk us through how 10x is actually easier than 2x. So Jesse, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thanks for the introduction, and I'm just really excited to talk about this topic. For those who aren't familiar, one of the things we're talking about is a book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, and it's 10x is easier than 2x. But I just really love and excited to dive in about what that mindset shift has done for me, for my clients, entrepreneurs growing their personal brand and their businesses.
For sure. Well, why don't we start there? Give us a little bit of a backstory behind your personal brand. You've got a kind of an interesting one. When we were chatting before, some drama in there. So why don't you kind of give us the quick, maybe 2 or 3 minute version?
Yeah, so I'm Jesse Flocken, and I, as a whole, I just help make big ideas happen. And so from that, I help entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, just all build that scalable growth through like story-driven marketing, but also performance-based strategies. But the way I started is unique, and the way that I did that was I was a firefighter for 15 years. And I accidentally started this business, and my first clients were Fortune 110 and even 5 companies early on. And our first year actually in business, as a part of that, we actually saved a Fortune 500 $30 million just by taking what they thought was a training issue, turning it into actually a customer service issue, and then really just getting people to care. And just that alone saved them almost $30 million. And so it all in a very short story. Essentially, I was like sitting at a fire station in the middle of the night one night, writing this like 50-page contract, helping a couple of friends out to make just sense of this with my customer service background and just my undergrad and some other things. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help you guys. And I woke up one day at 6 in the morning, just unloading the dishes at the fire station, and I got a notification that we had got this multi-year contract for this Fortune 500. And so it really all stemmed from that, but where the pivot point is that evolved into just like messaging really matters. And, if you're not just radically clear on who you are, what you're doing, and where you're headed, then that typically translates to everybody that you ever meet. And they hear or see or feel the confusion, which is kind of ties into just your online brand and personal branding as well. But more importantly, for me, we were doing these high-intensity, fun, fast-paced workshops. A lot of people might be familiar with Design Sprints by Jake Knapp, and we were doing kind of our own version of that. And as we were doing these workshops that were very purpose-driven, my wife and I are like, we need to do this for us. Like, we were doing it for venture capital people, we were doing it for clients, we were doing it for all this stuff, and so we did it for us. And just fast-forwarding a very, very long period of time, we did this workshop just for us, got radically clear about what our purpose was, what we wanted to run full blast towards, and I wasn't planning on quitting the fire department. And in that one moment when everything else seemed like an opportunity, we now realize like, oh, if we're headed over here, then none of these other things are actually opportunities, they're just distractions. And so from that point on, I didn't say goodbye, I didn't anything. I just started burning down my time and literally just up and quit the fire department. And people thought I was dead. They were like, oh my gosh, like his stuff's still here, everything's here. Like I wasn't planning on not going back after the weekend. And so that was kind of the inception of all of it. And we still owned the business at the time, but from that point forward, we just really got radically clear on what we were doing and then what others were doing.
Yeah, I like the point that you made there about really being clear on who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and making sure that you're voicing that appropriately with the right messaging. Otherwise, people get confused. I know as entrepreneurs, we're very multi-passionate, and sometimes we can be all about one topic for a while and then find a new passion to be all about that. And so kind of our, what we represent sometimes can be a little bit confusing to people because we're just always onto something new. But what's maybe the lesson there for those types of kind of multi-passionate entrepreneurs in terms of like finding maybe like the through line of how to see where you are, what you the multiple projects you have going on, but kind of maybe finding a through line and saying like that's my branding, that's my message that I want to present to the world.
Yeah, I think of a couple things, and just for clarity's sake, like clarity is actually really hard to achieve. That's why people pay so much to achieve it or for help. So if you're like, gosh, like I'm really good at this and that, and I'm just not sure, and I want to do it all, and the entrepreneur's curse is that they do want to do it all. They are good at a lot of things, and so you might be listening to this right now and like, man, but I'm really good at this, and I'm really good at this, and both of those things are true. It's just the person that you're talking to won't be able to decipher which of those things are, and so for us, like we helped a lot of local services for a long time, and we still have some of those like legacy clients. But we realized that it wasn't until we got clear on our own of like we have two silos, and they both all come under one roof, which is radical clarity through messaging and purpose. And so we have a big idea silo that's like workshops for like authors and speakers and things like that. And then we have our marketing agency, SEO, ads, local business services, things like financial advisors and things like that. And so, but everybody always wants to go to phase 3, which would be something like, I just want to start running my ads and get it out there. And what they don't realize is if the messaging is wrong where we're sending them, whether it's to the website or something, then they're getting to the end and we're just paying all this money to confuse them. And so for entrepreneurs, in the same way, the more radically clear you can get on one thing or niching down or something like that, that's where everything else comes alive. Now, just pausing there for a second, most people listening are like, great, how do I do that? I think the easiest way is another principle in the book, not meant to be promoting the book, but there's a free plug for them, but another principle in that 10x mindset that we're going to talk about in a second is that you focus on the top 20% of your unique ability. And most people are afraid because in a lot of business growth, they're like, hey, just focus on the top 80%, ditch the bottom 20%, and you're going to do so much better. And this is actually reversed. You focus on the top 20% of the things that truly light you up. One of my clients, they have an interview process to hit that home where they say, we look, aside from everything else in the interview, we look for that light up moment, they call it, when someone is talking about this and they truly just light up. They can't hide it, they can't anything, and so those things. I was actually at a football game or a football practice last night. It was super late at night, and I told the guy I was talking to, I was like, hey, I just want to know, like, there's a ton of people that I would be really annoyed if I was talking to them on the phone at my daughter's football practice right now, or flag football practice. And I was like, and you're not one of them. I just want to say what we're doing, the way I know it's the right thing is because I know that there's that light up moment where I'm excited about it, and I was still able to pay attention and enjoy it. I wasn't bothered by it. And we could just, hey, let's table this till tomorrow. But I was genuinely inspired by it. So if you're listening right now, I would think right away, what truly, it's not, people say my superpower or other things, what truly is that unique thing to you that actually gets you to light up? Because that's the thing where it's really gonna come alive. In the same way that I mentioned my own turning point or shift from firefighter to CEO, that was where I was like, oh no, I truly believe, as a bonus tip, but I truly believe that I've saved more lives, more marriages, more businesses, all of those things than all 15,000 medical calls that I ran as a firefighter, as a growth agency, and helping people actually get some clarity in where they're headed and how to do it.
Love that. Yeah, that's that kind of what lights you up thing. I especially as people who are multi-passionate, I think sometimes we pull ourselves in many different directions. And so we're kind of like stagnant. We talk about 10x growth. We're kind of stagnant because we're putting 20% energy into 5 different things. But when we find kind of the one thing where we're like, you know what? I know for a fact I am the best at this thing. If anyone tried to step to me and it's like Michael Jordan in that one thing. Like he's overly confident in his ability to perform for that thing. Um, I would. That's when you start to see a more hockey stick moment. So let's talk about other kind of 10x strategies there. What are some things that we should be thinking about in our business besides clarity and what we do, what we're best at, what we should be focused on? What are some other pillars of our business that we should be focused on for 10x?
Yeah, so I'm going to stop on that Michael Jordan thing and relate it back to 10x. So the very first chapter of this book talks about how the author's like son was going to some sports practice and I think it was actually football and he talked about how like, hey, I really want to play in the end, or I really want to play in college. And so he's like, oh, it's like, well, are you doing the things right now that will get you to be a college athlete? He's like, I think so. I think I'm doing all the right things. And it's like, well, like you don't ever want to go to the NFL or pro? And it's like, oh. He's like, well, no, of course I do. He's like, well, then do you think training like you're going to the NFL is the same as training to go to college? He's like, oh, no. And so the whole idea, and everybody's heard these sayings of like, if you like shoot for the moon and you miss, then you'll fall among the stars, things like that. And it's the whole idea of that 10x should be so lofty and unachievable that anything you're currently doing isn't going to work. And so now bringing that down to a very micro and rather than macro big idea is that most business owners, me included before this mindset shift, was, most business owners think like, okay, if I really dig down and I double down, I get double the ads and double the leads and double everything, then it's going to be double the revenue. And like, oh man, I can't imagine like even making double what I'm making now. And the reality and the truth of that is you're going to have double the work, probably double the expenses, maybe more. Everybody at the end of that year is going to be completely burned out, and you might actually lose more money than make more money. And people who have had businesses understand that and are like, oh yeah, I have tried that, and it's really, really hard. And so back to the pivot of that 10x mindset is, if like what would it take for us to do 10x that? There is absolutely nothing that you're currently doing that will get you there. So it forces you as a solopreneur, as a team, anything, say, okay, what would have to be true for us to 10x our revenue? And usually that starts with the one thing that you're good at that we just talked about. And then how does this 10x mindset come in to where, okay, like I'll give an example for a financial advisor like we were talking about. A financial advisor might be like, oh man, if I ran ads and got maybe 10 new clients of this size per month, like man, I'd really be set. Or you can start going after companies that have, say 20 to 100 employees that the big companies are going after, and now you're getting 20 to 40 or 100 employees every single time. And so it's that mindset shift that like going after the individuals might not work, but going after those adjacent industries, those shoulder industries, that's something that might be beneficial. So with that mindset, I'll leave it, kind of put a pin in that for now. There's a couple ways to make it more practical, but I think that's half the battle is shifting to that mindset of that 10x.
What are some of the strategies that you've seen within your business that have been the most impactful for new client acquisition and 10xing your business?
Yeah, so far outweighing every other thing that most people think. Most people are thinking, most people truly think about like, oh man, if I just had more ads or more sales, like it would solve all my problems. I could hire whatever. And I don't think that's usually the case. What I actually think is it's less about sales and it's less about ads and it's more about how people experience you. So one thing that we're talking about today is personal brand and building your brand online, all those things. People will actually be really shocked to find out that we have been referral only for 12 years, have not run any ads. I have no social media. My wife has no social media, and we haven't for at least the last like 8 to 10 years. They're like, what the heck? How does this even happen? And the reason why is because it's about how people experience you. And so far outweighing everything else, I think just having a referral network that is truly working for you, and you have endless referrals through like systematized. Most people are actually just passively and accidentally getting referrals, and just imagine if you were intentionally treating those referrals. So I'll just give one quick example. Like one is for our clients. Sometimes I'll send them gifts before we ever even meet, and I'll send them something that says like, hey, thanks for carving out time for us, and lands before we meet. Sometimes it'll be afterwards. Sometimes I will show up like some really wealthy folks that we work with that are in like the VC or private equity or just really successful entrepreneurs. I'll show up like insanely early because the only thing I have to offer them is my time and my attention. Like there's nothing I could give them. No gift would suffice. And I was actually going to meet this guy who's an international, like best-selling author, multiple books, like has a crazy community, like charges $400,000, for his like smallest coaching package. And I literally was thinking that exact thought I just said. I have nothing to offer this guy except my time and attention. I showed up like 20 minutes early. Well, guess what? He was 20 minutes early. He would have been waiting there for me regardless. And so just by creating that opportunity, I always say that most opportunity does not come from presentation, it comes from proximity. And so think about the ways in your personal brand and the ways as your business and entrepreneurship that you can truly create those little moments. I have no, I don't benefit from this at all. Another like shameless free plug is there's this RPT course, and it basically is a referral, rich relationship society. But if you go to like giftology.com, there's a gifting company that created an endless referral network system that you can go in and get taught all of these things, and that's where I learned how to do that. And so it's something where just by creating this, this snowball effect that truly is taking you further makes a really big difference. The last thing that's much easier is, like I said, is everybody wants to go after ads and SEO, and that's what they usually call us for. But I think as an entrepreneur, like getting radically clear on who you are and what you're going after, and just telling the world. Most business owners don't give others the way to talk about them. And so instead, if I had not said something like, hey, we make big ideas happen, or we blow up businesses in the right way, or whatever it is, if I don't tell them what to say, they're going to go to someone and be like, oh, I don't know what he does, but I think he can help you maybe. That's not confidence, and that's not inspiring any sort of confidence in the referral, versus our referrals are like, oh my gosh, hey, they walked me down to you and said that their business was all over the place, and you helped them get focused on one thing that set them on a totally new course they never had. So anyways, those are the two tips: referrals, and then I think getting radically clear on what you're doing before you spend money on putting your message out into the world.
I like what you said there about teaching people how to refer your business, essentially, and how to talk about your business when referring someone, or even just in conversation. I think that's something a lot of businesses kind of forget about. Is word of mouth is largely, for many solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, how they end up getting most of their business. But so a happy client can be your best salesperson, but they kind of also need the sales tools to help refer you. And so kind of giving them the messaging playbook to know how to speak about you. It's something I think a lot of us forget about.
If I could chime in there real quick. So like on that, there's two practical thoughts here. So traditional great referral practices, someone be like, hey man, you've had like celebrating results. You've had some great results. Is there anybody else like this that you could think of that would benefit from this? And that's traditional. It's noteworthy. A lot of times people hear that and they're like, yes, I need to do that. Then there's the other side. Then there's the other side of the second you get a referral, you're following up with the person who referred you, less attention on the person that's coming in. And no matter how it goes, you are thanking them, sending them gifts, you are anything, saying, man, thank you so much for the referral. And then after, even if it works out or doesn't work out, hey, I'm meeting with your referral, just wanted to say thanks again, and here's why. And so like just a simple text, or even better, a voice memo or a video, I think just goes a really long way, and we're not used to getting those in our inbox or our text messages. So just I like when you said that, I was like, oh, I got to tell people, like, it's not just about referrals. Thank them relentlessly and let them know how grateful you are.
Yeah. And another thing you mentioned, which I liked, was I forget the specific phrasing, but it was something to the effect of, um, growth isn't always about like skill set, but it's about proximity. Is there like a
It's almost never about presentation. Like, you're not presenting something to someone. That's not how opportunity comes about. It's always through proximity.
Yeah. So, I mean, proximity, you mentioned a couple things that were like being in the room with maybe your potential client or, a VC or a partner or whatever. Uh, Are there certain ways, obviously podcasting is one of these, where you're doing that from a digital space, kind of like being able to amplify your proximity, your digital proximity, through like promoting your brand or your personal brand online?
Yeah, I mean, so we actually have a couple core values. One of them, is like the total wow experience. I want people to know that. I say the only four-letter F word in clearly relevant is fine. If a client ever says, "Oh, it's fine," I'm like, give it back. We do not like it is not okay. The second one is always be early but fully present. And what you just mentioned, I think, even if it's in a situation that's virtual, um, you know, it's harder to show up early, but if you can even show up 2 to 5 minutes early, every single meeting in person or virtual, every large client deal that I've ever had has come from being 15 minutes early to a meeting about something totally different, or staying 15 minutes after for a meeting about something totally different. They've always said, hey, well, I got you here because it's not in that window that they mentally set aside for this conversation. They're like, while I have you here, actually, I have this other project I'm working on this totally separate thing. And then that's where all of our largest clients have come from.
Yeah, it's strange. That seems to be the case for myself as well. I think sometimes people maybe put up their mindset is too focused on maybe the current event that's happening, and so they're just kind of like, let me laser focus on that, and I have no room for other opportunities right now. Or two, maybe sometimes they put walls up during that event where they don't want to be sold to or whatever, but then kind of the post follow up where you're just kind of like shooting the shit. The walls are down a little bit more, and it's kind of just like two people grabbing a drink after the event, and so things are a little bit more real business gets done kind of that at that time.
Yeah, well, I think the genuine piece too is something that I heard a quote once of like, I think it was a Bob Goff quote actually, but it talks about like people will rarely remember what you say, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And so I think that goes a long way in just being genuine. And so as you're asking questions, it's might be something about family and then hobbies or occupation or whatever. But I think people can sense when you're asking small questions just to like get to the next piece versus someone who's actually genuinely interested, because then you're showing that interest and they just want to remember, what does it feel like to be a part of what you're doing. So I think that's something that if I could say anything to wrap a bow on all of this, I would say mindset shift of the 10x is bigger than 2x. Like, it actually is easier because nothing you're currently doing will get you there. Second, before you can do that, getting radically clear on who you are and what your like true unique ability is, and getting that out into the world. And then third, if your relationships currently aren't genuinely filled with gratitude, then that is actually a muscle. It's not a personality trait. It is something you have to go to the gym in a way of where you're like, all right, I'm going to stop right now after listening to this podcast and text 3 people why I'm grateful for them with no strings attached. Like, that's something that you just have to continue to do over and over. But with combining those 3 mindsets, I think that natural relational situations are going to come up to grow your online brand, personality, and everything in between.
Love it. Love it, love it. And if people want to learn a little bit more about you or see what you got going on, where would you like to send them?
Yeah, people, clearlyrelevant.com is, I do have a link on there currently that they could do like a quick free discovery call where they just need some encouragement as an entrepreneur. My famous line is that you don't have to be our client for us to help you. The reason why I'm going on these podcasts is not for more business. I'm trying to give away as much as I can to as many people as I can because a lot of people have felt stuck like me. So if you go to clearlyrelevant.com, then you can book a discovery call or check us out.
Love it. And what I like to do is kind of sign off with just like one final statement. You're kind of the audience members right there in front of you and you just had one kind of solid statement that you wanted to make sure they walked away with from this podcast, what would you tell them?
I would say another Bob Goff quote is, a good friend will never tell you what to do. They will just remind you of who you are. And I hope through this podcast that this causes you to think about who you are, what lights you up, what's exciting, because that truly, regardless of how great you are at business, that is the reason why people are coming to you. They could care less about the actual commodity or the service that you're providing in most cases. But what they do care about is the thing that you light up about that excites them and you're good at it and it makes it relational, it's easy to talk about. So really dig deep about who you are, what you light up about, because if you could do more of that, you're not gonna have to worry about the rest.
Love it. Saw you light up at that moment too, so it sounds like that's something that really resonates with you. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, Dave, thank you.
See you all in the next episode of Personal Brand Blueprint.